Both the spatial contiguity and temporal contiguity principles are related to the way we present learning material. The spatial contiguity principle focuses on layout, while the temporal contiguity principle focuses on timing. Before we go on, it helps to understand how learning happens in a bit more detail. If you've already seen the video on the spatial contiguity principle, you can jump to the 1 minute 38-second mark in this video or click on the bookmark below to skip ahead. So far, I've used this illustration to represent how learners receive information through our visual and auditory channels and how we should reduce cognitive overload by cutting out extraneous visual and auditory content. In the video on the redundancy principle, which you can watch here if you haven't seen it yet, or click on the link in the description down below, we also looked at how things can add to cognitive processing, such as the need to understand materials in a second language. But let's look at learning more closely. When we're presented with new information, we store it in our working memory. This is part of essential cognitive processing, which is the initial stage of learning. At this stage, the new information doesn't make sense to us yet. They're still isolated bits of images, dates, keywords, and ideas. For learning to happen, we need to do additional cognitive processing to make sense of this information. But our working memory is limited in how much information it can contain and process at any given time, and any additional cognitive work we have to do, however minor it may seem, will make it more difficult for us to learn. Now we can discuss the temporal contiguity principle. While spatial contiguity refers to the distance between the caption and the related image, temporal contiguity refers to the timing of the narration. Some might think that having visuals and narration separate will be better because learners double their exposure to the information and they can devote their full attention to the visuals and the narration. For example, in a self-paced learning module, learners might be presented with an image or animation and be asked to click for the narration. Researchers compared two groups of learners. One shown a simultaneous presentation in which narration and animation were presented together, and a successive presentation in which narration and animation were presented separately. The results showed significant benefits in learning transfer in the simultaneous presentation, which followed the temporal contiguity principle, with effect sizes ranging from 0.92 to 2.22. The reason this principle is important is that learning is not just about being presented with information, it's about making sense of the information. The process of meaning making requires cognitive processing. Also, our working memory is finite and we can't hold isolated bits of information in our heads indefinitely. When we're presented first with an animation, then given the narration, or vice versa, we have to hold one form of presentation in our heads, focus on the other, and then bring them both together. That overloads our cognitive processing capacity. In follow-up studies, the effects can be reduced if the animation and narration are presented in shorter segments. For example, if a 10-second animation is followed by a 10-second narration. The shorter segment means that the learner doesn't have to hold as much in their working memory and is able to make sense of the material even if the animation and narration are presented separately. Now, to be fair, most of you probably wouldn't design a presentation that requires learners to play an animation in its entirety before they can listen to the narration. What is more likely to occur is when you inadvertently violate the temporal contiguity principle by using an image online. For example, let's say you want to present a lesson on the circulation of the blood in the heart, and you use an image like this. I would argue that if you use this image as it is now, it would violate the temporal contiguity principle because this image presents the entire process before your narration reaches the explanation. Instead, you should follow the signaling principle, linked here or in the description below, and highlight what you want the learners to focus on as you narrate it, so that their attentions are not distracted. The video on the signaling principle shows you how you can edit images using free image editing software. You can also block parts of the image your narration hasn't reached yet or isn't relevant to your narration. You can use the animation features that come with most slideshow applications to review the relevant sections only when your narration reaches those parts. The same goes for text. If you're using bullet points, have them show up only as you discuss them and don't present them all at once. If you're designing a self-guided learning module, you can time the narration to go with the slide or even a specific animation. Although it takes time to design this, it's not difficult to do and the benefits go a long way.